Have you ever wondered just how far the love of a dog can be? This is a common occurrence in the day-to-day, in which a mother to come home so exhausted from carrying the bags and trying to keep everything very quickly. She thinks that everything is under control, and that the day has already passed, and that, for the moment, you can relax and unwind. But in the midst of this hectic routine, something that almost goes unnoticed. The baby, who was in the seat of the car, it's still there, forgotten, into the car, and closed. It seems like a simple scene, a distraction, but what happened next will move you in unexpected ways. This is the kind of story, and unfortunately, it happens more often than you might think, and a lot of times, the one who saves a life, it's a knee-jerk reaction, or even a surprise to the unexpected. Have you ever gone through something like this? In a situation in which, no matter how seemingly trivial, it could end in tragedy if it weren't for one detail, or for anyone who saw the danger in time. Stay with me until the very end, because that's all you're going to find out right now, might surprise you and change your view on the connection between the human and his best four-legged friends. In the story, they will tell you it involves a joint family, with a mother tired of a baby, an innocent, and a dog who was always by their side, as well as a true member of the family. In the rush of the day, she arrives at the house, pick up your purchases, if you distract them for a moment, and then, without realizing it, she leaves the baby in there, and also on the seat in the car. At this time, the danger is almost set, but it's something totally unexpected happens. The family dog, who always was a routine for them, she realizes that something is wrong with it. And what was he to do next? You are going to thrill, and to show, once again, of the power of instinct and of the unconditional love of a pet. It is with me. In order to understand how this is a companion to the four-legged turned out to be a hero, to prevent such a tragedy that it could be reversed. This story is more than a single episode. It has revealed the sensitivity of the deep connection we have with our pets. The following shows that sometimes the greatest protection comes from those we least expect it, even if it is a friend of the legs, which acts on instinct and to love. Get ready to feel the emotions and to reflect on the importance of being aware of the signs of those around you, especially those who seem to be minor, but it can make a world of a difference. If you've ever gone for a few moments and that one little thing made all the difference in the life of your pet, you know exactly what I'm talking about. These experiences teach us that a lot of times, the attention, the love, and the instinct to protect, they are present in the most subtle. And it's just those little things that we find the true essence of love and the connection that we share with our four-legged friends. If this topic makes no sense to you, leave it here in the comments on what you played or any of the history which have been involving in this particular sensitivity. Your participation is very important to strengthen the exchange of experiences and to show them that we are not alone in their journey of care and affection. In addition to this, if you like the content here, don't forget to like the video. It helps a lot for us to continue bringing you the stories you want and tell. And of course, if you want to keep track of every step of those stories that touches the heart, and subscribe to the channel. In your signature, it makes all the difference, because it is the one which encourages us to create more content that has that same sense of empathy and hope. So, keep with us, because there's still so much more to come, and I am sure you are going to feel the emotions even more in the future. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the truth which is hidden by the back of our decision-making is much more hidden in between the lines in our own minds. We live in a world where all emotions seem to be the one that guides our own choices, but in reality, they are only a reflection of a more complex structure that often don't even realize. This framework, which we call the mind, is like a lens that filters out all that you live in, everything they learned, and everything that we believe to be possible. And, many times, as it is built up from an early age, without being aware of how it influences each and every step that we take. Think about it. It's like opening a door to behind the scenes of your life. Because if we can understand how our deepest beliefs shape our actions, we can begin to change the way we face the obstacles of everyday life. The true transformation, one that comes from the inside out, and it requires that we look at those details which seem to be small, but they have a huge impact on our history. It's no wonder that so many people come to the point of frustration and a feeling that everything is against them, without realizing that, in fact, they have created this situation with the decisions made in the past, which are based on the mentality that no longer serves you the most. And then comes the revelation that many are reluctant to accept that the change is not something that happens overnight, nor is it an issue of willpower alone. It is a process of revelation, self-knowledge, to question the truths that we have learned that many times over the limit. When you begin to look at our own stories, and to the decisions we make in these moments of vulnerability, we can see that a lot of these choices are influenced by an internal narrative that tells us that we are capable of. What in the world is a tough place, or that the truth is something that is reserved for the few. In these stories, which have become absolute truths in our mind, that block our potential for transformation. But, at the same time, they will also provide an opportunity for release, because, as a narrative, in the negative it was built over time, it can also be deconstructed, with the right understanding. It is like a voyage of discovery, in which each revelation brings us closer to the most of us. And with that, we can begin to understand that our true essence is defined by the obstacles obstacles, but for our ability to rewrite our history and make new decisions that are based on the spirit is strengthened, and that you believe in our capacity for developments. This change in perspective is a depth of the impact that reverberates not only in our personal lives, but also in the way that we affect the world around us. When you go to work on with my life, and our actions will reflect a new reality, a new vision of possibilities. And then, the feeling of being stuck in the old limitations begins to wane, giving way to a true transformation happens from the inside to the outside. It is at this point that we realize that a journey is not only about achieving results, but also on the review and our own internal narrative, creating a story of courage, hope, and decision-making processes. And as we think about all this, it is clear that the impact of a mindset, so it's something that goes way beyond the individual. It is a silent revolution that begins in the mind, but it reverberates in our community, in our families, in our relationships. Because when we decided to move, we inspire others to do the same. And therefore, the processing chain is multiplied by creating a movement for real change. And that starts with a decision, a simple but powerful one. To believe is our story can be rewritten at any moment, and with each decision you make. And in the process, the more surprising when you realize that the truth is hidden, often it is hidden in what we believe to be impossible. When we begin to question these limitations, we found out that they were just in a distorting mirror to our own creativity and inner strength. Every step we take on this path of self-discovery reveals a new layer of possibilities and a new way of looking at the world and ourselves. It is as if the congregation were to be a part of the puzzle that will, little by little, it will form a clear image and true to who you really are, being able to a great deal of change, guided by the mindset that you learn to rely on your own heart. So, as long as the journey unfolds, we realize that the greatest impact, it is on the decision-making of don't give up, even when everything seems to be too difficult for you. Because, in essence, is that the decision whether we will follow up stuck with our old or limitations if we're going to create a new narrative, one that is based on the courage to face the unknown and the hope of a better future. And so, for the transformation of no longer something in the distance and is part of our daily lives, fueled by a little stock for choices, for a more in-depth understanding of it all starts in our mind, in our way of thinking. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because they understand the true essence of this transformation requires a full immersion in our own minds, our beliefs, the most widespread. Many of the times, we believe that external changes are sufficient, that is, a routine, a new or an attitude of the moment can be, everything can be solved. But in reality, it all starts from the inside, in the way that we interpret the world, and the story we tell ourselves, and the way that we see ourselves in the face of challenges. This is a journey of change. It's a sort of battle silent on what happens behind the scenes of our mind, and where the truths that are hidden from many of the times to remain hidden, making it more difficult for our real state. When we begin to explore these behind the scenes, to internal realize that many of our limitations does not come from external factors, but from the structure of thought, which has been built up over the course of the year. This belief is often made absolute truth in our head that shape our decisions, our emotions, and therefore our actions. It is as if we were in a kind of mental filter that distorts the perception of reality, leading us to believe that we are helpless, you don't deserve success or failure is an inevitable consequence of who we are. These ideas, which look like small, have a huge impact on our journey of transformation, as it will determine what you are going to accept or reject it as a possibility for change. The big revelation here is that the true transformation is not a matter of external forces, but also a change in its internal structure, a reprogramming your mind. And this reprogramming is about having the courage to face the truth that is hidden, the things that a lot of times we choose not to see it out of fear or comfort. It is at this time that many people give up, because to face up to your own light body, it requires a conscious effort and a dose of autocompexo. But at the same time, it is by far the most powerful that we can do, because it sets us free from the shackles that keep us from reaching our full potential. In the process of self-awareness, we discover that many of our most important decisions are made based on emotions which are not always fully understand. And as much as it seems to be contradictory, it is because of this understanding of life allows us to create a new narrative, a new truth, which leads us to the front. It is a kind of transformation that happens behind the scenes in your mind, changing the way we think, and, as a result, changing our entire reality. And when you do that, you start to realize the impact of our choices, and if you zoom in, it becomes more and more conscious and more aligned with who you really are and what you want to achieve. To learn more in this universe is built. We find that the change is not a magic or a snapshot, but a building on a daily basis. It requires a growth mindset, a willingness to learn from mistakes, to adapt to the adversities of life, and celebrate every small step forward, as it is a big step in the right direction. Every decision, every thought, whether positive or negative, it reinforces that the structure of the mind which we are to mold. For this reason, it is essential to be aware of our own conversations, built in, the stories we tell ourselves, in that they have the power to open doors for you, or to create invisible barriers barriers that impede our progress. And this is where comes the importance of a regular practice of self-awareness, reflection, and open-mindedness. When you come to know that we are in the main responsible for our transformation, we see that we can rewrite this narrative at any given time. It's not a question of luck or fate, but that of the conscious decision to take control of your own itinerary. This understanding gives us the power to make us understand that change, no matter how challenging it may be, it is possible. That start with the courage, with the mindset that it is all a matter of time, persistence, and self-belief. And at the same time, we found out that we are not alone in this journey. There are many of you that ever took this path, who faced his own shadow, and with great determination, they managed to break through their built-in limitations. These behind the scenes in the mind, which before seemed to be so dark and overwhelming opposition, has now become an area of opportunity for growth and development. In the end, the true transformation is a constant revelation, a journey of self-discovery that deepens with each day, revealing a new layer of who we are and who we can become. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, for it is precisely at this point that a lot of people are starting to realize that the real change is not something that happens at one time or another, but it's an ongoing process of discovery and transformation. We tend to think of it to change their way of life, or to achieve the dreams you just want to aggressively, or to make any change to the surface. But the reality is much more complex and fascinating. In our minds, there are invisible layers, which often operate in auto-shaping our choices, our emotions, and even our own actions without being noticed. And this is where the game changes when you start to understand that these scenes to internal, this universe is silent. It influences all that we are and all that we do. For example, have you ever stopped to think about it? Many of your reactions are the most automatic ones. The ones that happen before you even think about it are the responses of the standards that have been built up over your life. These patterns, which often carry limiting beliefs, are rooted in the deep layers of the mind, much like the roots and invisible that support all of our emotional states. And then, when you try to change anything about these old patterns, can withstand almost like an invisible force that tries to pull us back to what is familiar, even if that family is something that is not good for us. Because of this, the real work of transformation is about having the courage to confront those roots, to explore what is hidden, and a lot of times, rewriting a story that was set up in our childhood or past experiences. And this is where a concept of what I consider to be fundamental to the distinction between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the one that we were able to gain access to much more easily, which is our choices, thoughts, indeed, dreams, and objectives. But it's the subconscious mind that all of the things that really sends him into the of our life is saved. It is often without being aware of its influence. It is as if it was a secret library where every experience, every feeling, every fear, every hope, and were stored on a shelf invisible, the casting choices for you. To change yourself, you have to go above and beyond what the conscious mind is able to do. Immerse yourself in these depths to make a sort of cleaning maintenance of such information, which are often out of date or uploaded to a negative emotion. And it is this journey that reveals the true revelation of who we are and who we can become. When we begin to explore in this universe is built, we have found that many of our limitations are not real, but rather constructs of the mind that we can dismantle and rebuild it. Each of the belief that in the limit, it's like a wall that we can take down. Each and every fear that paralyzes us, it is an opportunity to confront and overcome it. And this change doesn't just happen on the outside. It is the first within the substance of the mindset that fuels our actions every day. When we are able to do this movement of self-knowledge and deeper, you start to realize that our reality is the sum of the internal decision-making. The choices are aware of the fact that, at the bottom, shaping everything around them. For this reason, in this journey of transformation, it requires an attitude of curiosity and sincere, and of the courage to face up to the things that a lot of times we would prefer to avoid. And at the same time, it is an opportunity for release to slow down your pace of life and to connect with what really matters to you. It is a process of autodescobrimento that challenge our certainties, in that it reveals the hidden truth that we have without even realizing it, but that, once unlocked, will give us the power to rewrite our story in a way that's more aligned with who you really are. When we understand these behind the scenes to internal, a new perspective, if you open it up, and then it all starts to make more sense, because we act no longer on autopilot, but with the full consciousness that we are the authors of our own itinerary. And at this point, we realize that the impact of a change in its internal structure is much larger than any of the transformation of the surface, which we've tried to make it only in appearance or the external action. Because you are, in essence, the change in the interior is, which leads to a revolution in the way we think, feel, and act. And this is a revolution, and that often starts with a simple insight. If it makes you on a journey of self-transformation is continuous, where each step reveals a new layer of potential for what seemed to be hidden away or unattainable. So, when you explore these scenes in the mind, we opened up the doors for a chance to be there seemed to be a distant, and with that, we began to see life from a new perspective. The more you take, the more authentic, more in tune with our true nature. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. me. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because you understand the behind the scenes of our minds is how to understand the universe, the secret that lies within each and every one of us. It is often invisible to the eye, but with a huge impact on our daily walk. The truth is hidden. That is, our decisions, our emotions, even the ones we consider to be our dreams, the most profound. All of it is wrapped by a built-in mechanisms that we are not always conscious. It's as if you were driving a car without knowing all of the buttons on the panel, often guided by the pulse of automatic, which seem to pop up out of nowhere. But the truth is, they all have deep roots in our history, our beliefs, and the way we interpret the world around us. The journey of transformation begins exactly at the point when you become aware of these mechanisms are invisible. We can begin to make choices that are more aligned with who we really are, and not guided by the standards, that legacy, or the conditions you have learned throughout your life. It is liberating because it gives us the power to rewrite our internal narrative, challenge and what we thought to be a true and permanent open space into a new reality, the more real and full. When you start to explore the behind the scenes of his mind, realizes that too often we are caught up in a cycle of self-sabotage. It works like a cog, invisible. It's as if most of us were constantly fighting against each other, creating an internal struggle that he wears in our power, and this takes us away from our full potential. And here comes the importance of understanding that this is a fight that is powered by the limiting belief that often don't recognize it as such. They are there, silent, shape our choices and our feelings, often in a way that's so subtle that you don't even realize how much they influence us. For this reason, the process of self-discovery is not just a tool for personal development, but it's a real journey to freedom. The comparison of these beliefs and patterns, we can begin to see life in a more clear, more real. This clarity is essential so that we can make informed decisions that are truly in line with our values and what we want to build. It is at this point that you realize the impact of small changes and built-in. It will reverberate in our daily lives, in our relationships, and even our emotional health. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because you understand the behind the scenes of the mind reveals that many of the limitations that are created by a narrative that we've learned to accept it as true. And it is this narrative, one that is often full of fear, doubt, and uncertainty. But when you find it, you can replace it with a story of empowerment, courage, and self-confidence. That's the real transformation, to realize that we all have the power to rewrite our story and create a new narrative built on the drive to the front, rather than to remain stuck in the past or lower versions of ourselves. This process is not that simple, of course. It requires the courage to face what's hiding in the corners of the deepest in the person's mind, but it also requires patience and compassion. After all, many of the beliefs and standards that have been built over a number of years, and the point of dismantling them, it's a journey that takes time. But when you take this step, we open up to the A-scale nature of our existence, where we can be truly in control of who we are and who we want to become. And when you do that, you start to realize that the impact goes far beyond the US. Each change to the internal echo in our community, in our relationships, and even in the way we affect the world around us. The internal transformation is the seed to sprout, plant, garden in our own reality. And in the process, we discover that the truth is hidden. The more powerful it is to you that we are the creators of our own experience. And that is, to understand the behind the scenes of the mind, it is reasonable to assume that role, and with more clarity, freedom, and purpose. He writes in, "I'm on this journey too. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the true essence of this inner transformation, is revealed precisely what many of the times we prefer to ignore. The impact of our daily decisions have on the construction of the whole world. When we begin to understand that we are the architects of our own reality, it changes everything. We are no longer victims of our circumstances, but rather for the authors of our own itinerary. And this change in perspective is, in fact, the door to a journey of self-discovery that reveals truths that are hidden. Many of them are so simple and yet so powerful that it can transform the way in which we see all around us. The idea that our choices shape our experience of it is not something new, but most of the people still live in the illusion that life happens in a random way, as if it were a series of events far from the surface. In this view, in fact, limits the potential for those who want to improve, because it prevents you from understanding the real control we have over our own personal history. When you come to know all the gears that you operate the rear of our services, we realize that there is often invisible. It is a kind of code of silence that governs our emotions. Our thoughts are more profound, and even in the situations in which we engage. This is often as a soundtrack that runs along the entire journey and influence every step you take, every choice, every reaction to it. And in this context, it is important to understand that what we call a transformation is a change in the surface, makeup, temporary, which disguises itself to our problems, but it's a reinvention of the true from the way they see the world. This change begins in the mind, in the way that we can understand what's going on our own deeply held beliefs. When we began to question those beliefs, to break down old patterns and open up space for new possibilities, we take a decisive step on the road to freedom, emotional and mental well-being. This freedom freedom, in turn, increases our ability to make conscious choices that are in line with our purpose, what we really want in our lives. The other point is that too often goes unnoticed is the role of the environment. The people around us, and even our thoughts, are automatic. They play in the process. We are constantly being influenced by a network of stimuli, both external and internal, that are shaping our perception of reality. The key, then, is to learn how to identify these drivers, to filter out what's really in it, and to strengthen our connection with our inner selves more fully. When we do this, we begin to realize that our experience of life is an intentional work of art, that is, you can edit and improve each and every day. And that's exactly where it comes to the importance of understanding the behind the scenes of our mind. Because of the unraveling of the mechanisms by which they operate, for the back of our thoughts and emotions, we can operate more effectively in the direction of our development. This realization shows that it is the fear, the doubt, and procrastination. They are often just a reflection of the old programs, beliefs, or inherited from the constraints that we have learned throughout your life. To shed light on these aspects, we can be free from these shackles and invisible, and create a new narrative, one that is truly in alignment with who you are and who you want to become. And then, as the journey progresses, it becomes clear that the transformation is not a final destination, but an ongoing process of self-discovery and reinvention. Every achievement, every insight, every step taken in the direction of our purpose is a critical piece in the puzzle that we are putting together. And it is precisely the dynamics of the rapidly evolving nature which keeps alive the desire to continue to learn, to explore new horizons in the field, and challenge the limitations built into it. If we think about it as well, all of this is revealed in one's true hidden, that only a few have the courage to take on that. We are the creators of our own story, and that we have the power to rewrite our script at any time. And in doing so, not only are we changing our external circumstances, but above all, by turning those who are in the know. Such a change in the internal echo in each and every aspect of our lives, affecting our relationships, our career choices, and even our emotional health. This is a truly great message, one that starts in our mind, but it manifests itself in a big way in our reality. At that point, it becomes clear that it's all in the mindset. The ability to see beyond the obvious and embrace the truth of our experience in life is a direct extension of what to grow house. The more aligned you are with this new understanding, the more natural it will be the manifestation of a life full of purpose and authenticity. And this, of course, it is about having the courage to face the behind the scenes of your own mind and to confront the shadows that many of the times we would prefer to conceal, and, thus, to make room for the light to change, to shine more strongly. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the true transformation doesn't just happen on the surface. It is revealed in the choices we make each day, the little choices that add up to shape who we are, in fact. And it's this journey of self-discovery requires a courage that is often imagined to have, because it invites us to look inward, to the furthest corners of my soul, where they are stored in our truth, and also to our greatest fears. It is in this moment that we begin to understand that change is not something that comes from outside, but from the inside to the outside, a reprogramming of silent, which little by little, we will be consolidating its position in our minds and in our way of looking at life and to act in the face of it. When faced with these shades, we are often surprised by the emotions that seem to pull us back, on the questions that seem to be insurmountable, or limiting beliefs that have strengthened over time, as if they were the walls are insurmountable. And in fact, they are just obstacles that we create in our own mind. As a result of the narrative, we learn to accept it as the truth. But the longer we can keep this standard, we are bound to the same routines, the same frustrations, and the same cycle of dissatisfaction is that it seems to have no end. It is for this reason that, in the wake of this reality, the hidden, the truth that is too often preferred to ignore them, it becomes a powerful tool of release. When we begin to look beyond the surface, it all starts to make sense of a broader, closer to the truth. And there you have it. The day-to-day changes into a sort of a continuing revelation, in a quest for authenticity, which leads us to question everything we have been taught, all the things that we have accepted as normal. This step requires an open mind, a willingness to challenge the status quo, to question the decisions of the past, and, more importantly, rewriting your narrative on the inside. It is at this point that we begin to understand the impact of the choices we make, not just in our lives, but in the impact they are having on the world around us. After all, it is a transformation of a genuine does not come only from the will the moment. It is a change of mind, a conscious choice to become the best version of yourself, even in the face of adversity. This is a change of perspective. It also leads us to understand that true power lies in our ability to make decisions differently, to act with purpose. Don't let fear or doubt in the paralyze. And in doing so, we have created an all-new story, a new chapter in our journey where every step is guided by an authenticity which seemed to be out of reach. Each and every day, each decision will by removing the old faith and by opening up space for new possibilities, and thus constructing a reality that reflects who we truly are on the inside. It's a change that happens slowly, almost silently, but it has a profound impact on our lives and in in our vibration and our relationship to the world. And in this scenario, the connection with the purpose for which it becomes more and more strong, because we believe that everything that challenges you, that makes you wonder, this is an opportunity for growth and evolution. The more you immerse ourselves in the process, the more we realize that true freedom comes from realizing that we are the only ones responsible for what we live by our own actions, and especially for our own change. And it is this awareness that leads us forward even when the path seems difficult to fit into the story, because we all know that every step is a very important part in building a life with more meaning, more in line with our deepest core. Now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the realization of that truth, hidden by that invisible force that rules our decision-making. It can be the difference between living a life of routine and living a life of purpose. And then, when you explore these behind the scenes to internal, we can begin to understand that change is not just a matter of effort, but from a transformation of the mindset that causes us to rethink everything we thought was true. It's like you open a door, revealing a universe of possibilities, where each choice an opportunity for progress. And when you understand it, and our perception of ourselves, and if you zoom in on and all the things that seem to be an obstacle and becomes an opportunity for growth, empowerment, and connection to our true nature. This view also leads us to reflect on the impact our actions have on the environment around us, in society, in the way that we touch other people. Every change to the inner ends up reverberating in addition to the US, creating a chain of development that can even wake up the others, for this is a journey of self-discovery. It is then that we realize that the true power lies in our ability to have a positive impact, be the light which shines the path for those who are still seeking their own truth. And even in the face of challenges, and are well aware of that, it becomes a never-ending source of power, because we know that we are contributing to something bigger than ourselves, a paradigm shift in the mindset and the impact of the social order. And while all this is happening, and our connection to the present becomes stronger, because we believe that life is a sum of moments, of choices that reflect who we are and who we want to be. This understanding will help us to keep focus and live with more intention, and to appreciate every second of it as an opportunity for growth. It is a journey of transformation that just won't die, because with every new discovery built, there are new possibilities of change, with new revelations that come to us more and more of our lives, more pure and true. So we'll just keep making sense of the behind the scenes of your mind by facing your shadows with courage, and open the door for the light to change, to shine stronger and stronger each and every day, maintaining a mindset that pulses with authenticity, purpose, and impact on our lives and those around us. He writes in, "I'm on this journey too. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, for it is precisely at those times when we believe we are in control. That is, in fact, that we are being shaped by the unseen forces operating behind the scenes in our minds. Many of the times we have spent years believing that our decisions are the result of a rational choice of a firm will and a conscious one, but the truth is hidden. It reveals a scenario that is far more complex. Our brains, the body is extraordinary. It is a real machine of the patterns, habits, and beliefs that are often formed in childhood and experiences that you don't even remember clearly. These deep roots to create a kind of internal map which directs our actions, our emotions, and even our decision-making, more important, many times without our realization. To think that we are completely responsible for our own choices, without regard to these internal factors, it is a misconception that the limits of our capacity for transformation. In fact, the real change happens when we are able to gain access to these built-in mechanisms to understand their origins, and the courage to question what it was programmed from time to time. It's like opening a Pandora's box, which reveals not only one's own limitations, but also our potential is hidden. Such capabilities often remain hidden as a matter of perspective, as we believe that we will not be able to, that the world is against us, or what our boundaries are insurmountable. But the truth is that, while unraveling the layers, we see that the narrative is a mental construct, a story that you can rewrite. To transform it, therefore, requires more than just a comfortable shallow. It requires a shift in mindset, is a real revolution in the homeland, where awareness becomes a main character. In the process, it is crucial to understand that our emotions are also a source of both biological and psychological. Many times, a simple sense of fear or insecurity, and this is the result of an automatic response of the brain fed by the experiences of the past, or by a distorted perception of reality. And if you don't learn how to recognize these triggers, we will be trapped in vicious cycles that seem impossible to break. It's like being in a maze, mental, and where each of the output, it looks further away than the previous one, because we are caught up in a narrative that reinforces one's own limitations. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the key to liberation lies in our ability to observe. You become the observer of yourself. This is a practice that many have called mindfulness or mindfulness, is the bridge is able to understand our internal processes and not to judge. When you are learning to look with kindness, we can begin to identify patterns that were previously hidden. We learn, for example, as a single word or a situation that could set off a chain of emotions, which, if not managed, it leads us us to make decisions that you later regret. That's when the real transformation begins. To make sense of all of this, we can choose a different response, a new narrative, one that is aligned with our core values, to our essence. And it is this conscious choice to respond in a way that is different is the one that really impacted on our journey of growth. Every decision we make, however small it may seem, it is a very important part in the construction of a new mindset. It's like we're digging a tunnel, not only in our own mind, by removing the layer of sand, rocks, and debris from emotions that impede our progress. With the tunnel, it becomes a safe passage through which we can move forward with greater clarity, confidence, and purpose. It is not an easy road because it requires the courage to confront the hidden truths and the vulnerabilities that we would prefer to conceal. But it is precisely because of this rivalry we find the power to rewrite our history in order to turn our limitations into opportunities for growth. And in doing so, we realize that true freedom is the ability to shape our thoughts, emotions, and actions in a way which reflects our essence is genuine. It is a journey of self-discovery that is never ending. As each layer, you dismantle it, reveals new possibilities for the development. And, in the process, we find that the impact we make in the world, it starts right here inside of us, in the way that we've decided to relate it to our own shadow and light. Thus, the transformation is no longer something that is external or surface. It becomes an expression of our true essence, which is a manifestation of the power we have to create a new reality on the basis of what we are on the inside. All of this leads us to a deeper understanding of the change is not an isolated event, but rather a continuum. A journey of self-transformation is constant, with each step and each made a conscious decision, each time for reflection, and serves as a stepping stone in the staircase, which leads us to the best of our potential. And, in the course of this journey, we have found that the greatest impact occurs when we align our actions with our deepest values, creating a true to who you really are. Well, the fact it hides many times, in the limit, if revealed, not as a threat, but as an opportunity for growth, a chance to reinvent ourselves and to open up space for a more complete, conscious, and powerful. And it is at this point that it all connects in a natural way with the next leg of the journey, because when you understand the roots of the mind and the invisible forces that shape them, we can begin to see the power we have to change our reality. Each and every insight, each of the revelation, and an invitation to further reflection on the journey of self-discovery, where the real difference lies in the courage to face our own truths. With this understanding in mind, it is clear that the impact we can have on the world can be directly linked to our desire to explore and transform each code of ourselves with honesty, respect, and commitment. After all, this is a journey that never ends, and the more we move, the more you realize the infinite possibilities that exist within each and every one of us. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is where the real transformation begins to unfold in a more concrete way." Too often we get stuck on the surface of our services and believing that change is not only a question of willpower or to adjust to some things than others, but in fact, it is the most powerful thing happens when we look beyond the surface, when diving into the roots of what really drives us. It's like opening behind the scenes of a play and discover that there is a story that is complex, full of nuances, and that shapes every decision, every response, every feeling that we have. This is a journey of self-discovery takes courage, because to confront the truth hidden inside of us, it often says something we would rather leave hidden. They are the thoughts that sabotage, limiting beliefs that were deeply rooted in the course of the year, emotions and repressed that urge to manifest itself at the most unexpected moments. But this is where the transformation happens, as we hold these truths head-on, with love and determination. This is not to judge or condemn what you find, but you understand it's all part of the process of evolution. Each and every piece of the shadow that we discover, this is an opportunity for growth, a chance to rebuild in a narrative, is more in tune with who we really want to be. And that's when the mind starts to move from the inside to the outside. The perception is that we are constantly building gives us an immense freedom to choose how you react to situations, and how to interpret what's going on, and, just as important, how we relate to ourselves. This change of focus makes all the difference, because instead of searching for external solutions, or to wait until an external factor in the change, we have to take control of our inner selves. And in doing so, we realize that our choices are no longer being impulsive or automatic, and will reflect a new attitude of self-confidence and clarity. It's as if the interior light was on, revealing the possibilities that were previously hidden by the fog of doubt and insecurity. As you explore each and every layer of our being, we have access to a wealth of built-in features, which often remain invisible because of the noise of everyday life. It is a process of constant discovery, in which each congregation he gives us a new perspective, a new understanding of who we are, and the impact you can have on the world around us. This understanding of the deeper causes of our actions are more purpose, more authentic, and at the same time, in the connect to a network, invisible to the positive impact that the spread of it, where we have to influence other people, to allow for such a journey of transformation. In the midst of this journey, it is essential essential to maintain an attitude of curiosity and openness. Is not always the answer comes instantly. Sometimes you need to be quiet, to listen to what your heart truly tells you to, or even allow themselves to make mistakes without judgment. It is in this space of vulnerability and the acceptance of the major revelations will occur, and with it, a chance to actually rewrite our history and to align our actions with our deepest truths. With every step, however small it may seem, it is a very important part in the construction of a new version of ourselves. The more self-aware, stronger, and more connected with the impact that we want to leave you out in the world. And all of this, of course, did not happen at one time or another. It's a journey, a constant reinvention, and that requires patience, persistence, and, above all, a genuine desire to improve. Because, deep down, in the biggest transformation that occurs when we decided to not only move out, but we become beings of a more complete, more in line with the core. And that, in essence, many of the times, it is in the small everyday decisions, as we face the challenges, and in our willingness to learn and grow from every experience. So as you explore the deepest within us, we have found that we are able to impact lives, change backgrounds, and create a new story. A story that is based on authenticity, courage, and the transformation is a continuous process. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. And if you've come this far, it's because I really connected with this idea that small actions and daily choices have a huge weight on our journey. And this is a very important step because you recognize the value of what we do on a day-to-day help us be more aware of and aligned with who you really are." If this content made sense to you, leave a comment saying, "I'm with you till the end," or something to show you that this message has touched you in some way. Thus, we are able to create a stronger connection here in the comments and share experiences that can inspire anyone who is watching. Oh, and of course, don't forget to give a like because it helps to retain the content for a living and is accessible to more people who need to hear a message like that. And if you like this forum, there's a video right here on the side that complements all of this that we talked about. Click there and still am there. It is because there is always something new to learn and a lot of work. The idea is that this is not a forum for exchanging real, wherein each step we take leads us to understand more about ourselves and in the build-up to a story that is more authentic. So, stay with me on this journey, and until the next video, I'm pretty sure you have so much more for us to explore together.